I don't know how many. I don't know if you can follow through my YouTube channel what videos I watch. And I I believe I downloaded one of them, but I didn't. I don't download them all. I just downloaded the one that I thought was important. And it's an INGF and IGTF or ITG or something. I don't know. It's an empath. Another form of an empath. And I know I'm an empath, but I don't know. No, I had a thought this morning listening to the tape, and I'm thinking that they try to blame narcissists for creating empaths, and empaths is becoming an empath is just like a survival response to dealing with narcissism in all different forms. And like my mother's a narcissist, and I would assume other people in my family are as well. My brother is, and stuff like that. But I just, because I always tell you the world's a paradox. So I'm wondering if I was the empath first, born an empath, and I then created. I mean, it's hard because as a baby, how would I turn my mother into a narcissist? But I'm just not buying the fact that because my mother was a narcissist, I became an empath. I just think there's more to that. Because not everybody that's around narcissists or born to a narcissist becomes an empath. It's not like a follow behind, like, oh, your mother's a narcissist, so you must be an empath. It doesn't always work that way, So I'm just wondering if it always works that way, that maybe I'm an empath first and I created the narcissist in my life, Because as an empath, I can do I have extreme powers. Powers of observation, powers of intuition, powers of observation. You just come into my orbit, and I could say like 2 words to you and ruin your whole life. Pretty much ruin your whole life, or at least change the trajectory of your life. Kind of like that alcoholic in your house. Your father's an alcoholic, and the refrigerator's full of beer, but you can't tell him he's an alcoholic because he'll shove you down the toilet. But I do that as an empath. I do that to people. I'm like, you're an alcoholic. And, yes, that one word, I mean, literally, that one word can send them spiraling down a deep hole. And the whole point is they were really walking a tightrope. Like a tightrope is between point A and point B, and there's a tightrope in the middle. And the alcoholic is walking that tightrope, and in their own way, but they don't actually say it, but in their own way, they're saying, don't call me an alcoholic. I'll fall off the tightrope if you do, So I go up there and I say, you're an alcoholic. And they fall off the tightrope. And they go right down the hole. And, because it's not a literal hole, it's a figurative hole, they don't die. But it takes them a while to get back up there. And most likely, once you do that, they're not going to get back on the tightrope, because there's no point in that, because now everybody knows that they're an alcoholic, and they know they're an alcoholic, and they're not hiding anything from you or from the world. So, the tightrope's done. Done. But now they got to live with themselves without the tightrope, because the tightrope was part of their life for many years. Many years they were on that tightrope, and I mean, it could be 20, 30, 40 years they were on that tightrope. So now they got to reinvent themselves. They got to figure out a new way to live, and live with the fact that they're alcoholic, and not go back on the tightrope. And some of them do try to go on that tightrope again, and believe me, they fall very quickly. You know, they don't last because they're off balance, they're off tilter. One arm has got a drink in it, you know, and can't balance like that, you know, and they know they're an alcoholic. The jig is up. You know, they've been lying to themselves. You know, they've been telling them the beer in the fridge is in the fridge because they don't like soda, you know, and they'd rather drink beer, and beer is cheaper, you know, stuff like that. There's all the mental masturbation they can do to justify having a refrigerator full of beer. Like my one sponsor I mentioned in a later video, that earlier video, that he's 20 years sober and he had 2 cases of non-alcoholic beer. And you know right there was a mind fuck going on to allow that 2 cases to sit in the fridge, in the kitchen of an alcoholic. You know he played a game that he was selling. He wasn't selling it to me because I knew, you know, I'm like, there's alcohol in that shit. You're not fooling me. And I argued with him. I didn't put up a big argument because he said 20 years sober. If you don't know that, who am I to tell him? But you know, he knew the jig was up. You know, he knew I wasn't buying it, and it made it harder for him to buy it. You know, because he's like, maybe he's got a point. You know, but when you're addicted and see two cases, he was obviously committed. It wasn't like he had one beer and he was just going to drink it and throw it away. He had 2 cases, so he was committed to drinking that. And whatever he drank in a night, you know, he tried to justify it in his head. Oh, I only drank a 6-pack. I got 2 cases, but I only drank a 6-pack, so there must not be any alcohol in it, or the amount of alcohol that doesn't bother me, and I can continue this. Because the whole idea is continuing. It's not the fact that you're doing it right now. They don't give a rat's ass about what they're doing right now. It's the fact that they can continue it, and they don't have to. Because when you can't continue it, you have to face the demon. You have to face the demon that lives within you. And by continuing it, you're avoiding facing that demon. You know, and that's what he was doing with 2 cases of non-alcoholic beer. And if your father's an alcoholic and he has a refrigerator full of, probably in the garage, has a refrigerator full of beer, you know, he's trying to run from that demon as well. And you know, if you see, you know, they don't like it when you bring home like AA pamphlets and AA questionnaires and just leave them everywhere, and AA suggests you do that because they'll eventually pick them up and read them. Most of them throw them away, but the one chance that they read it, they might go to a meeting and get help. But it's just that just picking up the pamphlet is facing your demon. You don't have to read the pamphlet. Just pick it up. That's facing the demon. You know, because you're moving in the direction of getting rid of that demon. And, you know, the demon ain't so easy to get rid of. And the demon is invested. If you're an alcoholic for the last 30 years, the demon is invested an awful lot of time into you and your kids and your wife and your friends and your job. He is so invested in you. And when you pick up that pamphlet, it's kind of like you're saying, no more, I'm done. And the war begins at that point. You know, the demon's gonna talk you into not going to a meeting, or if you go to a meeting, it sucked, I don't want to go back, all those kind of things. And even though you might have 6 months sober, the demon's still working on you. You know, the demon's got an investment and he wants payback. You know, and he didn't invest 30 years of you just so you could walk away. You know, he owns you. He thinks he owns you, and pretty much he does. And it takes a lot more than 6 months sobriety to give up your ownership or get back your ownership. So, you know, and I'm just using AA as an example. And I think the spirit of AA is a good program, but the program itself sucks, and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because they let the people with 30, 40, 20 years run things. And the reality of it is, if you have 20 years sobriety, you have 19 years and 11 months and 30 days of ego, and you have one day sobriety. You know, all you have is one day sobriety. You know, tomorrow you can wake up and go to the liquor store and goodbye. You know, so you can do it today too. You know, so goodbye. Once you pick it up, it's goodbye. Or you can go to the Italian bakery and get a box of those rum pastries and goodbye. You know, so it comes in very different. People do it with mouthwash. They do it with hand sanitizer. They drink. They do a lot of things, and that's why they're doing it. But then the demon says, "Hello, I'm back. Oh, missed you. Feel like going to your local liquor store? I'll go with you. You know, I'm sure you can say hello to the boys. They miss you. You know, they'll be glad to see you back. That's what the demon's going to say to you. The demon's not going to say to you, A meeting starts at 8 o'clock. You better get your ass in the door. You know, the demon ain't going to say that to you. So, you know, AA is a big ego check. You know, most people walk in that door with a big ego on their head, and they have a whole list of things they're not going to do to get sober, or a whole list of things. You know, they'll quit drinking, but they're not giving up their cocaine or their pot or their cigarettes or whatever. You know, there's a whole laundry list of things they're not going to do. You know, and a whole laundry list of things they want. They want their wife back. They want their job back. They want their car back. So that's why people have the breathalyzer thing in the car, because even though they really shouldn't be driving, and that's why those things cost an arm and a leg to have in your car. You know, you got to pay to get it put in. You got to get it paid to take out. You got to pay for monthly monitoring. You got to bring it in. They download any results. You have to pay for all that stuff. You got to pay through wazoo. And you can only drive that car. You can't drive your wife's car. You can only drive that car with the breathalyzer in it. And it's a real nightmare. But again, people go into AA. I want my car back. Well, okay, you pay this millions of dollars and you can have your car back. And that's how they treat it. And I don't think they're wrong for that. You know, because even people with the breathalyzer in it, they still drunk and figure out ways to beat the system, you know, having their friend blow and stuff like that. And there's no system is built. They have those ankle bracelets where they can tell if you drank, you know, and they still drink on them. When you're an alcoholic, you have no choice but to drink, you know, for the most part, until you get treatment, until you get away from it and stuff. And even then, you're a loose cannon. You're unpredictable whatsoever. You know, they can't tell what you're going to do. You know, and but as far as empaths go, I'm a major empath, and I don't really classify myself in any particular, like, super empath or regular empath or dark empath. There's so many different ones, and I'm just an empath. I qualify for all of them. You know, if I was to go through the qualifications for all of them, I could check the box on all of them. So it really doesn't matter. But, you know, like I said, I know how I have the power. I have great power, so I have great responsibility. And, you know, I can run the world, and I can tell you all how to wipe your ass and brush your teeth. I do a good job. But I don't want to do that. You know, that's why I put the girls in charge. And I didn't tell the girls how to create the world, or create a government, or create the country, or whatever. It's up to them. And I know they came from a sick devil's world, and I can't expect them to now act like that never happened, and that they never went through that. And there's a lot of that they went through that they're gonna want to carry forward into the new world, which I would advise not to. I'm not going to tell them not to, but I would advise not to carry that forward. But you know, a lot of your baggage is hard to give up. You like carrying it, and you don't want to put it down, like your alcoholism and your drugs and your smoking, and you don't want to give that up. you know? And I would say you should. Because you're going to poison the new world with your old world stuff. You know, it's just, it's like if you had a house fire and you move into a new house, you don't want to bring stuff from the house that went on fire because it all smells like smoke. It's got mildew on it. It's really shitty. You don't want to bring it to your new house where it don't smell like smoke and there is no mildew. You just picture that metaphor, and that's what you're doing if you're bringing it from the old world, because the old world is going to burn down, and you're not going to want to bring that old stuff back into the new world. I mean, when the phoenix burns in the ashes and rises again, it leaves the ashes behind. It doesn't. The new phoenix doesn't take the ashes with it. So it's like when a chicken comes out of an egg. It doesn't take the egg with it, the shell. It leaves the shell in the nest, and it goes off on its own. And that's what you're doing if you take the old world into the new world. You're taking the eggshell with you. You're taking the burnt stuff. You're taking the ashes. And you don't need any of that crap. It's not going to help you. It's like a security blanket you can't give up. And I'm telling you, give it up. But you do what you want, See, with my abilities, I can see where your life is going, and I can look at you, and you just come into my room or wherever I am, and I can, within minutes or seconds, or even before you even came in the room, I can tell you what your apex problem is, whether it be alcoholism or your husband or whatever, your job or whatever, or your personality or what you think of yourself, an internal problem, your ego, or your lack of ego, things like that. Now I can tell you all those things, but I'm not helping you. I want to lead you into a direction where you can discover those things about yourself, with yourself. If I point them out, then I just become the scumbag that says, "Oh, Jake called me ugly." He said I was ugly. And I didn't say you were ugly. I said, you think of yourself as you're ugly. And that comes out in the way you look. So things like that. So I can fix your problem in 5 minutes, but I'm not fixing your problem. What I always say, I said, when you fix a problem, you create a problem. So if I fix your current problem, which is carrying the old world into the new world, which is basically your current problem, if I fix that problem for you, it doesn't help you fix the next problem you're going to come across. Because fixing this problem without my help helps you fix the next problem that comes up. You say, oh, we made the mistake of bringing the ashes and the burnt stuff into the new house. Let's not do a similar thing in our next quest of problems. Let's learn from that. We didn't like the smelly stuff in the new house. You could smell the smoke everywhere. I was like, oh, why did we bring that? And there you go. Now, I told you not to bring it. You didn't listen. But if you had listened, you wouldn't know how much that smelly stuff in the house would have smelt up your new house. And now you know, and you'll never do it again. And hopefully you'll never have a reason to do it again. But I want to help you, but I don't want to hurt you. And I walk a tightrope of my own to do that. I can point out A, B, and C, do A, B, and C, and you won't have a problem. But you got to come up with A, B, and C, not me. I know what it is, and I got to keep my mouth shut and let you fall off the tightrope, and make you realize, I shouldn't have went that fast. I fell off because I went too fast. Whatever the reason may be. But and if you get mad at me because I'm not helping you, refer yourself to this tape. And you'll understand why. And don't get me wrong, I'm trying to clean up the mob, clean up the NS-13, and clean up the government, and clean up the nuclear weapons and take the men out of control. All those things I'm doing, and that's just on a different level. I mean, I don't. I expect the women to help me get rid of nuclear weapons by having my back. Like, yeah, that's what we want too. Like, listen, you gotta listen to him. What are you gonna do with us? And they don't want to deal with you. They'd rather deal with me. So, but if I don't have your backing, if you're like, no, we want to keep nuclear weapons, then I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna fail because I don't have your backing, and that's okay. If that's what you want, if you want nuclear weapons, that's fine. I wouldn't say use them, but you can have them. But I don't think you do, and I don't think it's a good idea to start a new world with nuclear weapons, And the current nuclear power, I would do away with because it's outdated. The plants that they do it with have been built 50 years, 60 years ago, and I'm not saying not use nuclear power, but update new nuclear power, there's new forms of nuclear power. There's mini nuclear power that can light up a town and has very little maintenance, just what kind of functions on its own. I've seen the plans on it. It's really good, but because it has that word nuclear power in it, it gets rejected whenever they talk about building it. They're like, not in my backyard, It's like, where are you going to, whose house are you going to build it next to, And they got a big problem. You put a nuclear power plant next to their house, Well, it's very safe. It's innocuous. It's not a danger. But because they hear nuclear power and next to my house, they think their house value is going to go down the toilet and all that. So, they have a lot of uproar. And because of the nuclear accidents that happen with the ones that do exist, but those are old school nuclear power plants. They're old technology, old everything, and we had a lot of problems with them, if you built a space shuttle today, it wouldn't probably look like the space shuttle that we know of, and probably wouldn't have the problems that the old space shuttle had. And although it would have problems of its own, that they don't know about it, that they created by making the new space shuttle, It wouldn't be an O-ring this time. It would be something else, But there's always going to be problems, And problem with the new nuclear power plants, I don't know what the years is, but it's a long period of time before you have to change the nuclear waste, before you get nuclear waste out of them. But then you got a problem. If you got a lot of these power plants all over the place, what are you going to do with all the nuclear waste? That's a problem too. So every time you solve a problem, you create a problem. So you're just kicking the can down the road. That's what you're doing. You're just kicking the can down the road. So if I solve your alcohol problem, now you've got a job problem, a girlfriend problem, a wife problem, a kid problem. You've got a lot more problems, and you had all those problems before. It's just with the alcohol, you were ignoring them. You were focusing on the alcohol. So, it was like, I don't have a problem. I got my Budweiser. I'm good. The game's on. The judge just hit 2 home runs and everything's good. I got a good day. Meanwhile, your wife's dying, your kids are dying, your job is like trying to figure out how to get rid of you, stuff like that. So, the only one who likes you is your lawyer. You don't want to pay him, so he don't like you that much either. So, but look, I realize the power I have and the responsibility I have. And am I going to fuck it up? Oh, you better be sure I'm going to fuck it up big time. I'm going to fuck it up big time. Plan on it. And if I don't, you missed the bullet. We all did. But if I do, I predicted it. I told you I would. So, you can't win. You can't win. Like my... you see that? Like my fishnet stockings. I think they're cool. But I don't like when they get caught on things, though, because then it becomes a nightmare. I got to get them untangled. And I have ones with the rhinestones on them and stuff, and the rhinestones seem to get caught on everything. They get caught on my right leg will get caught on my left leg, and I'll be locked. I can't move because I got to untangle them. You women go through hell. I swear you do. But you look great, so I can't say I want you to stop. I love a girl in fishnet stockings, as long as she's not on 42nd Street. But I don't know. 42nd Street don't exist anymore, but I guess it does in a way. After 8 o'clock, they don't come out till after 8 o'clock. But with the cell phones today, girls don't walk the streets like they used to. You just call them up and they come by. You call them an Uber and they come over. So things have changed. Anyway, let's have fun.